they say, yes, I want to be a clown. Is it a career maker? Can they really do it? Or is it more of like a, I hate to say this, but more of like a side hustle?
Yeah, you can make a viable career out of it.
Today I have Bullseye the Clown with me, and it's time we discuss clowns. Bullseye, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me on. This is great.
Absolutely. So, for anyone that regularly watches my shows, I always say whenever I come across a more obscure occupation, I just get tickled pink. I love this. We always hear about doctors and lawyers and this, that, and the other, but no one really talks about, at least from my perspective, becoming a clown. So I'm super excited about this one. So let's start with this. How about for you? What is a typical day like as a clown?
The mornings usually start off. I'm trying to plan my day out. So trying to figure out where it is that I'm going to go, what it is I'm going to do, what props I need to take. And then of course it's getting up and making sure that I plan enough time to get into makeup because I will put my makeup on, my costume, and then inevitably, just like this morning, as soon as I get all my makeup on, I have to blow my nose. And so I had to blow my nose and then mess my makeup up and then retouch my makeup up. So those are the things they don't always tell you about. But then one of the things that I have to figure out then once I get into costume and get everything kind of packed up and ready to go is where am I going? So I need to get to where I'm going. Is it an orphanage? Is it a hospital? And then do I have to take any precautions for wherever I'm going or take any kind of ID? It's kind of hard to take ID when you look like this, but because the ID doesn't really represent what I look like. Um, but then so that I go in, of course I do my show or I do my performance, or sometimes I might be doing like a training, so I might be doing like an anti-bullying seminar. Sometimes I actually go into clown to like organizations like Rotary or Kiwanis, and I talk about the humanitarian clowning stuff that I do. So maybe I'm doing this, so I had to kind of get into the right frame mind of figuring out what it is that I'm doing. And the nice thing that being a clown is if you screw up, well, that's okay, because that's it's all part of the shtick, right? And then of course after you get through that whole process, then it's kind of coming home and declowning, and of course inevitably I'll have to get gas on the way home, so I'll be in costume. So I'll still have to go to Walmart or somewhere and be in costume. And then I kind of come home and declown, and then that's the time where I spend doing like emails, and I'm trying to figure out other places to go. And like right now I'm in the process of planning a Guatemalan tour for February. So it's kind of trying to round some clowns up to go on the Guatemalan tour. And it's where are we going to go when we get to Guatemala? Where are we going to stay? So I'm still working on all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of what a day is like and the life of this kind of a clown anyway. I don't do birthday parties, so I'm more the humanitarian kind of clown. So my day might be a little different than some clowns, but I just really never thought I would be doing this at my age.
Awesome. I want to circle back to your transition. I don't want to quite get there yet, but I definitely want to
Okay.
talk about that because that's going to be awesome. But you talked about you don't do birthday parties and that sort of thing. So what other opportunities are there for people that want to be a clown? Because admittedly, when I think of clowns prior to this conversation, it was like, the circus or birthday parties, and that's it. But what else is out there that you haven't already mentioned?
There's festivals, there's parades, there's like I said, I'm a humanitarian clown, so I go into hospitals, I go into orphanages. And then I decided to branch out and do my own thing. So I actually go into assisted living memory cares. I actually do either visits or one of my other jobs I used to have was as a personal trainer. So I developed a clown fitness program. So I go in as a clown and we use balloons and we exercise with balloons. So there's ways to tie this into really any kind of profession that you're in. So I'm kind of like one of those odd ducks. It's like I didn't want to do all the normal stuff like the parades and all that kind of stuff. I had to be different, always had to reinvent the wheel. So that's kind of what I'm doing. There's actually quite a bit that you can do as a clown. You just have to go out and you have to go out seek those opportunities. So that's kind of what I spend the afternoon doing, is kind of figuring out, okay, now where do I go next? What do I do? And
You talked about invariably when you finish one of your days, you might have to go get gas for your car, or you might have to stop over to a store and pick up something, and invariably you're going to see people there. So quick story. So when I was talking to Laquana Cook, she was Dr. Laquana Cook. She's a university professor. And we were talking about, memories from the past. And I was talking about when I went to visit my brother in Arizona. We took another brother of mine and myself. We went by train, went to Arizona to visit my other brother. And it was when we were coming back at one of the stops on the train, two clowns actually got on. And I'm not scared of clowns. I'm not one of those people, but it was weird seeing these two people come on the train, full get up, and it was just a weird vibe. So what happens when you're out and about and you are at a store? Do you ever like see people kind of like shuddering away, or they just point, or they can I have your picture? Like, what kind of reactions do you get from people when you're out in, quote unquote normal places dressed up as a clown?
Oh, I do. I get that all the time, but I pretend like when I pretend like there's nothing wrong. So I'll go into the store and I'll be just shopping and doing things, and I pretend like I'm just like a normal person, that there's nothing happening, that my makeup is not on in my head. So I'm just buying my stuff and just ignoring what's happening around. So just like my own little thing. But what's really funny is because whenever I do travel, like on an airplane, whenever I'm going somewhere in an airplane, I can't do the makeup, of course, but I still will wear all my clown clothes. So I'll have my nose on, and and so it's funny to see like little girls. There was a girl on the plane, and she had her phone up, and she was trying to over her shoulder take a take a picture. So I'm like, like all smiling, but she like tried to sneak and take a picture of me. And so I'm sure I'm probably on some weird people's Facebook pages right now, a clown shopping at Walmart or whatever.
That's awesome.
Yeah, well, big gas. And then of course, I try to do the pump so I don't and pay at the pump so I don't have to go in. And inevitably the pump thing is down and I always have to go in dressed like this. So so it's like, okay, all right, we'll deal with this.
Going back, you talked about finding different opportunities. Now,
Mhm.
do you work with any kind of booking agent, or is that all on you at this point? Do people use booking agents, but you don't? What is that like?
I do have a couple of clown friends who actually have booking agents. I am not one of those people that have one. So so I have to kind of do my own. So it's just kind of me out there sending out emails and you know, try to lead people to my Facebook page, my websites and things like that, just to trying to get you know, talk up what I do. Like I said, I'm a little different than what most people are doing. So like most people have the booking agents who will book them into places. So I'm kind of having to call, hospitals and seeing if I can visit, or nursing homes, and seeing if I can go into their memory care unit and things like that. Now there are some things I have to do. I made sure that I have a fingerprint clearance card. That's something that in Arizona, at least, you have to be able to have a fingerprint clearance card to go into like a lot of like nursing homes and things like that. So I made sure I have one. And so that way there's not a problem with that. So yeah, but so I book all my own stuff. So but if there's any booking agents out there who would love to book a clown, feel free to give me a buzz.
I love that. I absolutely love that.
Maybe you can have a booking agent on your next episode.
I am down for that. I will speak to anyone. So let's talk about the different types of clowns. I know there's like an Auguste, I think it's called. I think there's a white face, I think. What are the different types of clowns, and how they differ from each other?
Well, the white face clowns are supposedly the the most elite clown. They're the grand dames of the clowning world. So um, I decided I right away whenever I became a clown, that's not what I was going to do, because I don't like to put on makeup that well. So if I had to do my whole face and make sure there was no white spaces, no, that wasn't going to happen. So that's like the highest. And then the goose is kind of right below. It's kind of a little bit of a transition. So there's some white. So actually my makeup that you're seeing is partly a goose makeup. I used to do tramp makeup, which is a tramp clown. I don't know, like Red Skelton used to be like a tramp clown, and he would and oh gosh, this guy right back here, what's his name? Emmett Kelly. I had to think about it for a second. Emmett Kelly would be and of course they're like the low of the low clowns. The tramp clowns are the depressed clowns, and they're the ones that are low on the social totem pole. So I kind of, whenever I was learning my makeup, I kind of took a couple. I took some things from the tramp, because I used to actually do like whiskers on the side. I would, do it. So I would do partly tramp makeup and partly a goose makeup. And then I thought, oh, that's too hard. so so I kind of just went with this kind of makeup. And then there's also there are just what you call character clown makeup. So that would be a clown who kind of like Bullseye the Clown. It's kind of like or Bozo. It's like they may steal a little bit from everybody and then they just kind of create their own character with it. So that's kind of what I do. That way there's no rules and they can't say, well, your makeup is wrong. And I can say, no, I'm a character. So this is what this character wears. So, so that's
So
kind of that's how I do it. That's how I get away with stuff.
I'm glad you mentioned Bozo the Clown because I had this thought too. So the short version is, how do you come up with your name? But also, is there any kind of like name list? I wonder, like, do you have to get your name trademarked? What happened if you're using a name that someone else is already using? Can you do that? Like, how does that work?
Well, there are like quite a few people who have like the same kind of clown name. Um, but actually, there is another Bullseye the Clown on social media, like I think on Facebook and maybe YouTube. But he didn't trademark his name, so I made sure to trade name my name. Now I don't go after him and tell him he cannot do videos as Bullseye the Clown or anything like that. But at the same time, should my name or my likeness get out there or somewhere I don't want it, then I can say I'm sorry, but my name and my logo is trademarked, so you can't do anything with that. And so I have that for like a 10-year period. Then I'll renew it once I get there.
Earlier, you talked about transitioning to becoming a clown. You said that before. I forget what you said that you did previously, but let's talk about that because I'm always interested in when people are looking to pivot into a new career and what kind of skills they take with them into the new career. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about why clowns and how did you exit from your previous career world and enter into this one?
Well, I started off, I was a theater major in college, and then I went from that. I did a brief tour as Mr. Wizard. I went to schools and stuff. So that was kind of my first gig. And after that, I kind of launched into stand-up comedy. So I did stand-up comedy for about 10 years. And then I kind of got bored with that. I kind of was like, you know what, I'm not being like spiritually fulfilled, or it's not really fulfilling for me. So then I just took like a normal job at a factory. My dad passed away in 2018. And so when my father passed away, he left me a little bit of money and he never traveled. And I thought, oh, I want to do something, um, with his money as opposed to just paying a bill or, doing something stupid like that. And so I remembered seeing a movie years ago called Patch Adams. And so I contacted his website. I looked up his website and I noticed that he was a humanitarian clown and he did these clown tours all over the world. And he had one coming up that was in 2018 to Russia. I had never clowned before. I mean, I'd done stand-up comedy, but clowning is a little different. So I like, okay, I didn't know anything about it. I contacted them saying, is this something that I could do? Oh yeah, come on. So before I knew it, I was on a plane with 35 clowns and we were in the middle of Russia. So we were there for like 14 straight days. It was like a clown boot camp. It was like, all the things I probably should have known before I actually jumped into this career is probably, I probably should have done some research prior to going. So I was just kind of learning on the fly. So it was kind of, okay, go into the hospital room, be funny. Oh, okay. You're sitting in there and you're trying to be funny while somebody is, sad, so it was definitely an eye-opening experience. And I really never thought I was going to continue with the clowning. I just thought this is going to be like a trip that's going to honor my dad. And it's going to be like a one and done kind of thing. And then when we were there, I just really saw the impact that clowns had on all of the people that we interacted with. So like you could just see like when you walked into a hospital room and you would see like a mother of a sick child and she's really, got this angst on her face. And then all of a sudden you just kind of see that go away and she smiles and she's able, for whatever length of time we're there, she's able to relax and not think about her child being sick or having to worry about, the nurses coming in, and she sees her child smiling for the first time, maybe that week or whatever. And so I just started seeing little things like that happening every single place we went. And so that was like when I got back home, I thought, oh, I need to figure out a way to go do this again, but maybe not quite so far away. Maybe not fly clear to Russia to do this. And so that's when I came up with the idea. I was like, well, I have a personal training background, and now I have some clowning experience. So why don't I try to combine the clowning with the personal training and go into senior communities? So that's kind of how I started with senior communities. I just came up with a program. I came up with an exercise program, blew up some balloons, and I kind of practiced some stuff at home, made barbells out of balloons, and went into some assisted livings and kind of like, as they say, the rest is history. And then I continued to do some Patch Adams tours. I've gone to Morocco and Mexico and Costa Rica. And then this past year in 2004, I decided to start my own clown tour. Um, because I wanted to take it one step further, with Patches tours and everything. We went and we had fun and we hugged and kissed and played and did all that. But then when we left, we left. I thought, oh, it'd be so great if we could leave something behind. So that's when I came up with mine called Clowns on a Mission, where when we went to Guatemala, the first thought was we took backpacks, 200 backpacks filled with school supplies to give to the needy children in Guatemala, because there the parents can't afford to send them to school and to feed them. So they either feed them or they send them to school. And so we found some children that we could give the backpacks to. But when we were there, we realized all the people that we were encountering at our events were hungry. And so they said, well, maybe we should buy them food. And then I kind of thought, well, okay, I'm supposed to be like this clowns on a mission. It's supposed to be whatever the mission is what we do. So then I had to go, all right, how much is food? So we ended up, and the funny thing was the food was so super cheap. And I'm thinking, it's really sad that the food, we paid like $50 for like 200 pounds of corn. And I'm thinking, we paid 50, so it's like $50 American money. And I'm thinking, it's really sad that, it's $50 for 200 pounds and they can't afford that, so we bought 200 pounds of rice and 200 pounds of corn. We bought like 500 packs of cookies and 500 juice boxes. And everywhere we went, we handed out food at the end of all of our performances and all of our events. And that's what we're planning to do again in February. We're going to go back, hit some places that we didn't hit the first time, re-hit some of the places that we hit before, and just making sure that people are having fun and they're spiritually fed, but also that they're physically fed and they're having food. And so that's kind of what we work on.
Okay, all right, that's really, really cool. That reminds me, I spoke with Lisa from Colby's Army. It's a nonprofit organization, and she actually started out something in a very similar way. They started with backpacks, and they filled backpacks with different things, and then they discovered, kind of like what you were saying. It's like, well, people need more, and then she just kind of grew from there. So that's really, really cool. Very admirable what you're doing, going to Guatemala, for instance, with all those supplies. That is fantastic. Okay, so one thing I don't ever talk about on my show is money. I never want to ask people like, how lucrative is this? Can you make money doing this? But for clowns, I'm thinking of someone that is, maybe they just finished their secondary education, and for whatever reason they say, yes, I want to be a clown. This is what I want to do. Can they have a viable conversation with their parents, or are their parents going to be like, no, that's terrible. So what would that be like? Is it a career maker? Can they really do, or is it more of like I hate to say this, but more of like a side hustle for someone that's just starting their career?
If you're a clown that does birthday parties and you do things like that, yes, you charge for all of those things. You can charge to go into the nursing homes if you're doing a show. You can charge a library. You can charge a school. So yes, if you're going to all of those kinds of places, you can't. If you're a humanitarian clown, you pay. So I pay to go to Guatemala. I pay for the food. I pay for the hotel. I pay for the airfare. Unless I could get a corporate sponsor who would be willing to send us over there. So so ideally that's kind of what for me, that's kind of what I'm looking toward now, is trying to, so that's another thing that I spend my afternoons doing, is saying, who would be interested to maybe give us a few $1,000s to sponsor a tour or something like that. But then at the same time, I do supplement. That's where I do like I'll go in to do bullying seminars, and I'll charge schools to go in there and do a bullying seminar, and I'll charge to do a thing in a nursing home, a performance there, just to help supplement that kind of thing. So, but yes, I mean, I know quite a few clowns who they do face painting, they do a balloon twisting. So they might not be hired as a clown for a particular gig, but they may be hired to balloon twist and do balloons, or to face paint, or to do what's called glitter tattoos, which is I'm slowly starting to learn. So maybe whenever I go to Guatemala in February, I can do some glitter tattoos. And so, but yeah, you can make a viable career out of it. It just kind of takes some planning. There's a lot of corporate a lot of corporate meetings. So like when they have like their corporate what do you call it? Their like annual convention. They may hire somebody like a clown or a face painter or a balloon twister to entertain their children while they're off doing their seminars or what it is that they're doing, and then they have something else going on. So but absolutely you can make a living doing it.
So what about like clown school? I'm assuming clown schools exist or not so much.
They're kind of called more like a convention. So there's clowns. There's Clowns of America International. There's the World Clown Association. They hold a convention every year. There is Mooseburger. So there is a Mooseburger Clown Arts Camp. I actually went to that after I became a clown to learn all the things that I should have known before I went. But there you can take like different tracks. You can take like performance tracks. You can take like I did of course I did like the Cara Clowning act, section where we actually went into a nursing home while we were there and we actually did a show for them. But yeah, you can learn that you can take juggling classes, you can take how to make a rose out of a napkin, how all kinds of just different classes that you can take. So yes, there are, and there's usually like maybe like 4 or 5 of them a year all over the United States, and I'm sure they have them in other countries as well. But I've done a few of them in the United States.
How important do you think that is for someone that's just getting started? Is that super important? Can they pick up stuff on YouTube or a similar platform? What's the best way to just to get started acquiring those skills?
I would say to do some kind of a clown convention or like said Mooseburger, you don't need to like sign up to be like a member of an organization. You can just go to that particular one. So I would always suggest that they do that first to kind of get some of the basics down. And then like I said, what you learn, you kind of pick what you like, you kind of throw out the rest and kind of create your own persona, your own skill set, whatever it is that you want to do it. And some people might have skill sets from whatever job that they're coming from. So like if it's not a child who's coming from, no job, but like if it's an adult who's transitioning and they're a personal trainer or they have some other kind of they're a public speaker or they do a lot of other things, then they kind of have a leg up, I think. They at least have some help.
It's funny. Every time you mention personal trainer, I immediately think of like the balloon barbells or balloon dump. It's so ridiculous. I love it.
Well, they used to have these things called a donut, a balloon donut. So it was like this big balloon, and when you blow it up, it had a hole in the middle. So what I did is I took 2 of those, and I took one of those long balloons, and I stuck it between the other 2 balloons.
I am running a little short on time, but one thing I like to do whenever I'm speaking with someone, I like to give my guests the opportunity to talk about a project they're working on, a cause they believe in, something about their business. If you want to talk more about your trip, but I'm going to leave the floor open to you. If there's something you'd like to discuss, the floor is yours.
That's what my next project is. My next project is a planning tour for Guatemala in 2025. We're looking for clowns who would like to go on our trip. So I'm always up. You don't have to have any experience seriously to go on a clown trip. You learn what you need to learn once you're there. You have clowns who are doing crazy different things. I go in, I tend to play, so I have like little chickens that I fling and I do other things. There are some clowns who they go in and they'll just sit and they'll hug somebody, they'll hold their hand. It's just, you do whatever you feel comfortable with. And then as you see what other clowns are doing, you just kind of pick up things. We all bring way too much stuff. So a lot of times we're sharing toys, we're sharing things. So we are planning to go there's a nursing home there that we will go. We will give them some food. We'll do there's a place in Guatemala called the Dump, and that's where it's like a landfill that people who were poor, they just overtook the landfill and they started building homes there. So we will go there and we will hand out food to them. And so if you're looking to do some kind of a mission, or you want to even learn, the starting of how to be a clown or whatever, then definitely by all means come on one of our missions. We're going in February. I think it's 18th to the 25th. So that's my next big project that we're working on, is trying to get that all organized, find a group of clowns to go. We like to try to take about 5 to 10 clowns with us. And then we have like a group in Guatemala that we meet with. And so we have, like maybe a group of 20 by the time we're said and done. And we're kind of going all over the place. And
You said that no experience was needed. What about costumes? Do they need to be able to provide some kind of costume, or will that be provided for them?
We don't provide the costume, but like I said, just going off, it's just finding something that's colorful. And like I said, it will give you feedback. We'll give you there's like a little once you sign up to go, we send out a little thing to give you ideas on, what to bring, how to create your character, things like that. And like I said, I'm always available to talk to. So if you actually want to, talk to me, I'll be more than willing to talk to you and tell you what to bring. And you can run things by me. I typically will bring some extra noses just and so you have your little red nose. And of course I have makeup. So if you need makeup, I have extra makeup that we can make work. But yeah, you don't need anything special, just colorful clothes and a willing heart, and we'll put you to work.
That is awesome. And if they want to be part of this, what would be the deadline that they would need to sign up?
I like to have everything paid by January the 16th. So definitely by the first of the year. I would definitely like to have it done by, have people signed up and ready to go by January 1st, because we're also, of course, making time to book hotels and things like that to make sure that we have enough hotel rooms and stuff like that. And of course, you can go to my website, which is clownsonamission.com. That's where you would sign up. And you can also do clownsonamission.com/Guatemala, and it'll talk all about the Guatemalan tour and how to be a part of that.
That's absolutely awesome. I'll make sure I get all of those links. I'll put them on the webpage. I'll put them in the show notes. I'll put them all over the place. So when people are looking for that information, they can easily find you. Bullseye, it's been absolutely awesome having you on Time to Discuss, and we learned what it's like to be a clown.
Thank you so much for having me. It was fun.